Imagine an underwater paradise, pulsing with color and life, silenced by the relentless shadow of greed. An empire built upon destruction, where each barrel of oil extracted was a death sentence for countless marine creatures. The architect of this devastation seemed unstoppable, his coffers filled at the ocean's expense. But what if we told you the fate of these industrial scars took a turn no one could have predicted, thanks to a Hollywood star with a plan as audacious as it was secret? What truly happened when Keanu Reeves stepped onto the scene, not with a protest banner, but with a checkbook, facing down a titan of industry whose very name was synonymous with ecological ruin? The figure we call the oil baron was a spectre of modern capitalism, a man whose empire was forged in the relentless pursuit of profit. The black gold, his only true idol. He rose from obscurity with a singular, unyielding focus, brushing aside early environmental warnings as mere inconveniences, whispers lost in the roar of his drilling operations and the clinking of coins. His reputation was one of ruthless efficiency, a disregard for consequences that extended far beyond the boardroom, seeping into the very oceans he exploited. For him, the vibrant ecosystems below were not treasures to be cherished, but obstacles to be overcome or, at best, unfortunate collateral damage in his quest for more. Before the shadow of his rigs fell upon them, these coastal waters were a kaleidoscope of life, a testament to nature's artistry. Coral gardens in hues of rose, violet, and fiery orange stretched for miles, providing shelter and sustenance to a dazzling array of marine inhabitants. Schools of iridescent fish darted through the intricate coral branches while shy seahorses clung to waving sea fans. Sea turtles, ancient mariners of the deep, glided gracefully through these pristine waters, returning seasonally to feed and nest, their existence interwoven with the health of these delicate reefs. It was a world of breathtaking biodiversity, a vibrant, thriving community. Then came the platforms, steel behemoths piercing the tranquil surface, their arrival heralded by a cacophony of industrial noise that shattered the ocean's peace. The initial impact was stark and immediate, the constant hum and clatter of machinery, the blinding glare of artificial lights disrupting nocturnal cycles, and the inevitable small spills of oil and chemicals that painted iridescent toxic sheens on the water. The very installation of these colossal structures disturbed the seabed, churning up sediment that smothered delicate corals, a physical assault that marked the beginning of a slow, painful decline for the once thriving ecosystem below. As years turned into decades, the cumulative damage wrought by the Baron's operations became a horrifying spectacle. The vibrant coral gardens, once teeming with life, began to bleach, turning a ghostly white as they expelled their symbiotic algae in a desperate fight for survival. Fish populations dwindled, their food sources and habitats disappearing under a blanket of pollution and neglect. The once clear waters grew murky, visibility reduced by suspended particles and chemical contaminants. The scar was no longer just a metaphor. It was a visible festering wound upon the face of the ocean, a grim testament to unchecked avarice. The oil baron and his corporation, when confronted with the mounting evidence of their environmental devastation, responded with a predictable playbook of denial and deflection. They commissioned their own studies that conveniently found minimal impact, launched superficial greenwashing campaigns to polish their tarnished image, and deployed armies of lobbyists to fight against any meaningful regulations that might curb their profitable destruction. There was a pervasive sense of impunity, a belief that their economic power placed them above reproach, above the cries of a dying ocean. It was a blatant display of corporate might overwhelming ecological sanity, a true injustice playing out in slow motion. Meanwhile, perhaps far from the oily slicks and the deafening drills, Keanu Reeves, a figure known more for his on-screen stoicism and off-screen acts of quiet generosity, became aware of this unfolding tragedy. It might have been through a startling news report, a harrowing documentary, or simply a series of photographs depicting the stark contrast between the ocean's past beauty and its current desolation. A seed of concern was planted, a quiet empathy stirring within him as he absorbed the scale of the destruction. At this stage, it was a distant sorrow, a flicker of the profound connection he often portrayed, but the images began to haunt him. The silent scream of the ocean was most acutely felt by its inhabitants. Corals, unable to flee, slowly starved and suffocated, their intricate structures crumbling. Fish that once schooled in their thousands found their nurseries destroyed, their migratory paths disrupted, their very survival hanging in the balance. Sea turtles returning to ancestral feeding grounds found them barren and polluted, often ingesting plastic debris or becoming entangled in discarded fishing gear attracted to the rig structures. It was a slow, agonizing demise for an entire ecosystem, a profound injustice against creatures that had no voice to protest their plight, their suffering largely unseen. Small, dedicated groups of local activists and marine scientists, armed, with more passion than resources, waged a valiant but often futile battle against the Baron's colossal enterprise. They organized beach cleanups, meticulously documented the declining health of the reefs, and submitted petitions to indifferent government agencies. Their voices, though filled with scientific evidence and heartfelt pleas, were frequently drowned out by the powerful machinery of corporate PR and political influence. It was a classic David versus Goliath struggle, where Goliath seemed not only larger, but also deaf to any appeal to conscience or long-term ecological wisdom. In stark and cruel contrast, the oil baron often appeared in financial news, celebrating record profits and announcing further expansion plans, seemingly oblivious or entirely indifferent to the ecological wasteland his operations were creating. Each new well drilled, each tanker filled, was hailed as a triumph of industry, while the silent annihilation beneath the waves went unacknowledged. This blatant disconnect, the flaunting of wealth derived from such profound destruction, amplified the sense of injustice, fueling a growing outrage among those who understood the true cost of his success, a cost measured in lost species and poisoned waters. A specific incident, perhaps a more significant oil spill than usual, that coated miles of coastline in a black viscous sludge, or the confirmed local extinction of a particularly beloved marine species directly attributable to the platform's pollution, served to galvanize public awareness and intensify the despair. The images were too stark to ignore, the consequences too dire to dismiss. This event pushed the narrative beyond local concern, making international headlines and highlighting the impunity with which the Baron operated, a raw display of ecological cruelty that shocked even jaded observers and cried out for some form of intervention. Keanu Reeves, now more than just casually aware, began to delve deeper into the situation. He consumed scientific reports, spoke with marine biologists, and sought to understand the complex legal and economic frameworks that allowed such destruction to continue unchecked. He learned about the immense difficulty of holding such powerful corporations accountable and the apparent lack of viable solutions that could reverse the damage on a meaningful scale. The problem appeared intractable. The oil baron's empire too vast, his influence too pervasive for any conventional approach to make a dent. The chasm of curiosity, that feeling of what could possibly be done, widened considerably. The situation seemed utterly hopeless. How could one individual, even a globally recognized celebrity with considerable personal wealth, realistically challenge an industrial behemoth responsible for such widespread, entrenched devastation? The conventional methods of protest and lobbying had proven largely ineffective. What radical, unprecedented strategy could possibly offer a glimmer of hope against such overwhelming odds, against a man who saw the ocean merely as a resource to be plundered? Then came the moment of quiet epiphany for Keanu Reeves, a realization that fighting the oil baron on conventional terms was a losing battle. Protests might raise awareness, but they wouldn't dismantle the rigs or heal the reefs. He needed a strategy that was entirely unexpected, something that would bypass the usual channels of conflict and strike at the heart of the baron's own motivations. A plan began to form, audacious in its simplicity and breathtaking in its potential scope, a true Hollywood-worthy plot twist, but one grounded in a deep, empathetic desire for real change. He began to assemble an unlikely team of advisors, not environmental lawyers to sue, but rather experts in complex acquisitions, perhaps even engineers who understood the life cycle and decommissioning of oil platforms. Crucially, he sought out visionary marine biologists and ecological engineers, those who weren't just documenting doom, but were exploring innovative, even radical methods for habitat restoration, including the controversial but potentially transformative concept of large-scale artificial reef creation. The pieces of a very unusual puzzle were starting to come together, far from the public eye. The approach to the oil baron was made with surgical precision and utmost secrecy, likely through a series of discreet intermediaries and carefully crafted legal frameworks. Keanu Reeves, the celebrity, remained in the shadows. The offer presented was purely commercial, a bid to purchase a specific set of the baron's aging, almost environmentally problematic offshore oil platforms. It was an offer designed to appeal directly to the baron's core characteristic, his insatiable appetite for profit and his desire to offload liabilities that might one day become too costly. The oil baron's initial reaction was likely one of bewilderment, perhaps even a cynical amusement. Why would anyone want to buy these aging, polluting behemoths? But then, the numbers were presented, a figure substantial enough to pique his interest, to make him see not a savior, but simply another business opportunity. He likely saw it as a chance to divest from depreciating assets, perhaps even to spin it as a responsible move, all while pocketing a handsome sum. The why behind the purchase probably mattered little to him compared to the how much. And so the deal was struck. Legal documents were signed, funds transferred. The news, when it inevitably leaked to the public and the press, sent shockwaves through both the entertainment and environmental worlds. Keanu Reeves buys oil rigs, the headline screamed. Speculation ran rampant. Was he planning to enter the oil business himself? Had he, in a bizarre twist, become an unlikely ally of Big Oil? Critics were quick to pounce, accusing him of hypocrisy or a misguided publicity stunt, completely unaware of the true transformative vision. Keanu, true to his enigmatic persona, offered no immediate explanation, allowing the confusion and speculation to swirl. This deliberate silence only amplified the mystery and heightened the tension. Environmental groups were perplexed, unsure whether to condemn or cautiously observe. His fans were baffled. The what was clear. He had bought oil rigs. But the why remained a tantalizing, unspoken question, hanging heavy in the air, making everyone lean in, desperate for the next chapter in this most unexpected saga. The stage was set for a reveal that would redefine his public image. Then, with the world watching and wondering, Keanu Reeves finally unveiled his extraordinary plan. The purchased oil rigs would not be refurbished for further drilling, nor would they be simply dismantled and sold for scrap metal, their metallic bones scattered. Instead, they were destined for a far grander, more astonishing purpose. They were to be meticulously cleaned, made environmentally safe, and then, in a feat of ecological engineering, strategically sunk to become the foundations of new, artificial coral reefs, ocean sanctuaries born from the very instruments of their past destruction. The logistical and engineering challenge was immense. Each massive platform, a multi-story steel island, had to be painstakingly stripped of every pollutant, every trace of oil, every hazardous material accumulated over decades of industrial operation. Specialized teams worked for months, power washing, decontaminating and modifying the structures, cutting away unnecessary parts, and ensuring that what remained would be stable and safe for marine life. A complex and costly process that underscored the seriousness of Keanu's commitment to this radical transformation. A consortium of leading marine biologists, oceanographers, and ecological engineers was brought on board, their expertise crucial to the project's success. They meticulously surveyed potential sites, considering ocean currents, water depth, and proximity to existing struggling reefs that could benefit from larval dispersal. They designed modifications to the rig structures to maximize surface area for coral attachment and create diverse habitats, nooks, crannies, and overhangs that would attract a wide array of marine species, turning cold steel into a welcoming scaffold for life. The pivotal moments came with the controlled sinking of the first prepared platforms. These were not chaotic demolitions, but carefully orchestrated events, the massive structures gently guided to their final resting places on the seabed. It was a profoundly symbolic act. The tools of oceanic devastation, once symbols of industrial might and ecological disregard, were now being intentionally submerged, not in defeat, but with the promise of a vibrant rebirth, surrendering to the ocean to become part of its healing, a visual metaphor for hope. And then, the ocean began its slow, steady work of reclamation. Within weeks, a fine layer of algae, the pioneer species of marine ecosystems, began to coat the submerged steel. Soon after, tiny, curious fish, scouts from nearby waters, started to explore the new complex structures. Then came the first true miracle. The almost invisible larvae of corals drifting on the currents found purchase on the clean metal, attaching themselves and beginning the slow, meticulous process of building their limestone skeletons, the first brushstrokes of a new living masterpiece. Keanu Reeves, it was reported, often visited the sites, not with fanfare or a press entourage, but quietly, perhaps on dive trips with the scientific teams. He observed the nascent signs of life, the slow transformation of his audacious vision into tangible reality. There was no grandstanding, only a profound, almost meditative satisfaction in witnessing nature's resilience when given a genuine chance, his belief in the project being steadily, beautifully validated by the ocean itself. A quiet hero watching his impossible dream unfold. As months turned into a year, then several years, the transformation of the sunken rigs was nothing short of miraculous. The stark, angular steel skeletons gradually softened, then disappeared, under a burgeoning coat of life. Hard and soft corals in a dazzling array of colors and forms colonized every available surface, creating intricate three-dimensional habitats where none had existed before. Sponges, anemones, and barnacles added to the rich tapestry, turning industrial relics into vibrant living structures teeming with biodiversity. The complexity of these new artificial reef ecosystems rapidly increased. Large schools of reef fish, from jewel-toned damselfish to sleek barracuda, patrolled the structures, finding both food and shelter. Sea turtles, which had previously struggled in the degraded waters, were now frequently sighted gliding through the rejuvenated areas, foraging among the new coral growth. Even shy octopuses and graceful rays began to call these man-made sanctuaries home, a testament to the comprehensive ecological restoration that was taking place. The contrast with the surrounding areas, some still bearing the scars of the barrens, past operations or simply lacking such complex structures, was dramatic and undeniable. Where once there was barren seabed or dying reef, now pulsed these oases of concentrated marine life. The former oil rigs, once symbols of death and decay, had become beacons of hope, their silhouettes now softened by a riot of color and movement, visible proof that even heavily industrialized zones could be reclaimed and reborn, a stunning reversal. Of fortune, these burgeoning ocean sanctuaries quickly became invaluable living laboratories for scientists. They offered a unique, large-scale opportunity to study coral recruitment, the succession of marine species on artificial substrates, and the overall resilience of ocean ecosystems. Researchers flocked to monitor the progress, gathering data that could inform future reef restoration projects worldwide. New insights into how marine life colonizes and thrives on such structures were gleaned, advancing the science of ecological recovery in profound ways. The reaction from the local communities, initially skeptical, transformed into awe and then active support. Fishermen who had seen their catches dwindle for years began to notice an increase in fish populations in the waters surrounding the new sanctuaries, a spillover effect from the protected breeding grounds. There was even cautious optimism about the potential for responsible small-scale ecotourism, dive operations that could showcase these underwater marvels, bringing economic benefits while fostering a deeper appreciation for marine conservation. The poetic justice of the situation was not lost on anyone. The very instruments that had once spewed pollution and shadowed the reefs in darkness were now the foundational pillars supporting a vibrant resurgence of life. The oil baron's legacy of destruction was being, quite literally, overgrown and transformed into something beautiful and life-affirming, an unintended gift to the ocean he had once so carelessly exploited. It was a powerful symbol of how even the darkest chapters can have an unexpected, redemptive sequel. Reflecting on this extraordinary endeavor, the public perception of Keanu Reeves subtly shifted. He was already beloved for his kindness and humility, but this project elevated him to the status of a true environmental visionary. His intervention wasn't mere celebrity philanthropy. It was a bold, strategic, and deeply creative act of ecological stewardship, demonstrating a profound understanding of both the problem and a radically innovative solution, proving that real-world heroes could be just as impactful as their cinematic counterparts. And what of the oil baron? Did this astonishing transformation prompt any reflection or remorse? The narratives suggest he largely faded from the public eye after the sale, perhaps content with his profit, perhaps bewildered by the ultimate fate of his former assets. His reign of ecological terror was over in these specific locations, his industrial monuments now subverted into symbols of hope, his destructive legacy inadvertently paving the way for an unexpected and beautiful renewal, a footnote in a story now dominated by healing. The ripple effect of Keanu's initiative began to spread. Other wealthy individuals, corporations, and even some governments started to look at decommissioned offshore infrastructure not merely as a disposal problem, but as a potential opportunity for environmental enhancement. The Reefs Sanctuaries, as some unofficially dubbed them, became a globally recognized case study, inspiring a new wave of thinking about how to creatively repurpose industrial footprints for ecological good, a blueprint for turning blight into beauty. The long-term impact on the local marine biodiversity was significant and sustained. These artificial reefs, now mature and thriving, acted as vital stepping stones and genetic reservoirs, helping to bolster fish stocks and coral populations in the wider region. Larvae from the healthy corals and abundant fish within the sanctuaries drifted on currents, seeding recovery in other nearby areas that were still struggling, demonstrating the interconnectedness of ocean health and the far-reaching benefits of targeted large-scale restoration efforts. The overarching message was one of profound and defiant hope. It showed that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable environmental damage and the entrenched power of destructive industries, human ingenuity, when coupled with genuine compassion and audacious action, can forge pathways to healing and renewal. It challenged the cynicism that often accompanies large-scale ecological crises, proving that transformative positive change is not only possible, but can emerge from the most unexpected of quarters and methods. This was not just a story of celebrity intervention. It was a testament to a different kind of heroism. Keanu Reeves utilized his unique position, his resources, his influence, and his platform, not for further self-aggrandizement, but to orchestrate a complex, costly, and risky endeavor for the benefit of the planet. He embodied the spirit of quiet determination and impactful compassion, scaling up the idea of everyday heroism to an unprecedented level, reminding us all of our shared responsibility as stewards of the natural world. From monuments to greed, to thriving cathedrals of marine life, the transformation of the oil barons' rigs is a powerful testament that the future is not set in steel or stone. Keanu Reeves's vision reminds us that redemption can bloom in the most unlikely places, and that compassion, when fused with creative action, can rewrite the bleakest narratives. This story isn't just about saved coral reefs. It's about the boundless, human potential to heal, innovate, and protect our precious planet. What did you think of this incredible turnaround? What other tales of environmental heroism inspire you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if this story moved you, and subscribe for more narratives where hope finds a way.